They talked about Miss Fairfax's complexion. That's the way her skin looks. And this is something that's in many ways less of a concern today, because there is just so much makeup around, and people are expected to wear makeup and layers of foundation and other sorts of things. I personally don't like it, but a lot of people do, so, teach their own. But the thing is that Miss Fairfax was considered very pale. And a lot of people, when they are sick, there is less blood flow to the skin, and so they get a paler appearance. So when you're exercising and you're running around and you're healthy, more blood is pumping, and more blood is pumping, more blood goes out to the skin, because that's kind of the way your body regulates heat. It dumps blood out into the skin where it warms up the air. And when you're cold, it closes down the capillaries of the skin and you get a paler appearance. And when you are sick, you are often cold because your body is using all of the energy it has to fight the illness and doesn't necessarily have enough energy to run metabolism and keep things warm. So she has a very pale complexion, which kind of looks unhealthy. At the same time, the pale complexion was often envied in prosperous circles back in the day, because that was a sign that you didn't have to go outside. And if you were rich and you were fancy and you didn't have to work in the field, pale skin, no wrinkles, that was a great way to look. Um, Lots of places, lots of people use a lot of sunscreen to keep a pale look. At the same time, there are people who go into tanning booths to get a tanned look, which has kind of become a more modern sign of prosperity, because in the US, prosperity in the US, because if you have a factory job, if you have an office job, and you have to stay inside all day, then you don't have the opportunity to go out jogging during lunch. You don't have the opportunity to hit the tanning salon. And so in the US, being tanned is often a sign of prosperity. And it's all sorts of weird things. And in East Asia, there are places where people just go absolutely nuts about protecting the skin from sun damage. They have like these full body, full masks where you can only like see their eyes. And this isn't like the burqa type of thing where it's done for modesty purposes. This is done to just block out the sun. Um, but places to look for sun damage that you don't really necessarily, where it won't necessarily show, ears and wrists. Because with wrists, if you have a glove, it covers most of the hand, but there's often a gap between the sleeve and the wrist. So if you want to do the Sherlock Holmes thing, you look at the wrists and you see where the sun is, where the sun is hit. Um, Another thing, walking and talking. So Mrs. Weston decided, hey, let's go out for a walk. This was her regular time for exercise. And so she went out for a walk, and Frank followed her. And they ended up at Emma's, and they all went out for a walk together. And walking and talking is a great pastime. Um, I've mentioned about being on the Camino, and when you walk on the Camino and you're walking at the same pace as somebody, you just end up chatting about this, that, and the other thing. Something more than the weather and my feet hurt. And then, it just sort of naturally breaks down barriers, and it's walking and talking with people is a good thing. Um, Actually, in high school, during lunch, me and a bunch of people, we just sort of walked in a circle talking about whatever. It's like, oh, physics, math, science. I went to a math and science concentrated magnet school. And so there was a lot of talk about math and science and such. Uh, but, walking and talking is a very good thing. Frank wants to have a ball, dance, get people together. And Emma's like, you don't have the right type of people to have a ball. There's like a dozen of us, and maybe three at the right age, unmarried. And he's like, nah, we'll just get in everybody. We'll bring in the butcher and his wife. And, he's like, and Emma is just horrified because, as I said, this book is a lot about class and a lot about class distinctions. And Emma was horrified at the idea of mixing with the help. Um of of mixing with the help of there's a very strict sort of split. It's referred to as upstairs and downstairs. Where you would have the servants' quarters in small places. I think the servants were upstairs. I'm not sure. Yes, Lolly confirms that the servants were upstairs. In the attic. Oh yeah, in the attic. That's something also kind of funny where things have just like insanely changed. So, way back in the day where you had these large houses, they would build shanties. So you have this huge brick house and then up on the roof where no one could see, a couple feet back from the edge so you can't see it from the street. Maybe people could see it from the second or third floor of their house across the street, but you had these people would build these little shanties and tents for their servants. And that was called the penthouse. Yeah, so Penthouse now is the snazzy apartment, the ultra rich apartment up on top of buildings. But back in the day, that's where the servants, the bottom tier servants lived. It's like they would have these small sheds, they would have tents almost. I mean, it was like a shanty town on top of the house, which is just absolutely hilarious. But most of that can be traced back to the invention of the elevator. Because once you no longer had to walk up 6 floors, floor 6 has a mighty nice view. And once you no longer had to walk all the way up, oh man, that is sweet.